be able to present some history of the 4-H and FFA beef show, which was originally held in Bristol, but now has moved to Abington. And I was a 4-H'er during the 1950s. My first show was in 1955, and my last show was in 1960 when I went away to college and to work elsewhere. The show was held at the Bristol Stockyards, which was in downtown Bristol, beside the railroad tracks, and it burned sometime later, and I'm not sure when. The show has really changed, but back in the 50s, we had the Hereford, Angus, and Shorthorn. We knew of no other breeds, and that was it. And it was called the Baby Beef Show, and the calves were on nurse cow until the day of the show, and there was music in the barn, calves bawling like you was out on the range. They were just weaned and looking for their mama. In 1957, when I was looking for the ribbons, I couldn't find any ribbons for 1957. I thought, what's the deal here? I happen to remember that's the year that I bought a steer, paid $190 for. I sold him for $195. I fed him and got him ready for the show, and I really made money. What, $5? Yes, I didn't give up. Being stubborn as I am, I said I'm going to go and see if I can do better. So the next year, I bought a steer for $82. What's he going to do? Not got a whole lot of money invested in this one. But he was the grand champion at the Bristol Baby Beef Show in 1958 and sold for $1,092, and that was a lot of money back in those days. That was more than 1 year cost of college in comparison of what money you can imagine. Community support for the beef program was very good. The Bristol Chamber of Commerce rolled out the red carpet for us. The WCYB TV station came out and they did an excellent job of advertising and pictures, and we always would try to rush home to see the 6 o'clock news. And the Bristol newspaper always was there and gave really good coverage of the show. And every person that went through the sale ring was awarded a silver dollar, regardless of what placing your animal was. And this was really great to be able to take home a big silver dollar. In the fall of 1960, I went away to college and to work elsewhere. And I was gone for 20 years. In 1980, I came back to Lee County as an extension agent 4-H, and the steer show had really changed. They changed the name, the stockyard had burned, and the show had been moved to Abington, and it was no longer called the Baby Beef Show, it was the steer show. Cattle had changed. We had those big old Charolais cattle, we had Kenini, we had, what are some of the other breeds? We had crossbreeds, we had some good-looking animals. Then the carcass show was added, which I think was an excellent event for the youth to see what the animal looked like hanging on the rail. And it was held at the Valleydale Packers, and they always provided a nice meal and a nice program when the animals were hanging on the rail and ready for us to view. And there's one thing that has never changed, and that is the show has always been held on Wednesday since day one. And so that's, many other things have changed during all this time, but the Wednesday is the big day. Now the blue ribbon winner, to me, is the 4-H or FFA member who has bought the best steer or started out with the best steer they could possibly find and done the best job they can possibly do with that animal. And we probably have several blue ribbon winners at each show, but that is the youth that's going to go places and do things because they won't give up. So it's been an honor to present some of the highlights of the Bristol show.
Yeah, I'm Tom Cross, or Tommy Cross, known as back when I was showing cattle. I showed cattle in 1948, the first year. 1949, I got lucky and had the grand champion steer. It was real exciting back then. Back then it was known as the Fat Calf Show. which they later changed to steer show. I did have a mighty good calf at that time in 1949, and was real pleased that it took 3 banks to buy it. Not that it brought that much money, but back then the $1,100 was a $5 animal. But 3 banks did buy the calf.
Do you remember the weight of that calf?
I believe it's 1,400 pounds or 13 something. Yes. It was a mighty good calf. We bought it from a farm in Rogersville and raised it. We were in the dairy business at that time. And, I just was interested in showing cattle. Got in the 4-H club and had my beef cattle on the side of the dairy cattle. And we did go out and buy the calf and show. Now we have a farm and we have good cattle now and could sell some good 4-H club steers and have sold some in the past. So it turned out to be good 4-H club steers.
Did they, at the time when you were showing, did they do a party beforehand, like the night before?
No, it was after that they had a carcass show. And after the carcass show, they had to all get together and have a Valleydale Packers and had a party for the people to show.
All right, and you've got your trophy with you?
Yeah, that was my trophy back then. They're a lot bigger now, but that was, I thought, was big at the time.
All right. And where's that other one at? Yep.
I have another trophy here that was for the second place showing on the same year.
Very neat.
So I really had a big year in 1949.
That was your big year, huh?
Yeah,
How old were you then?
15.
You were 15. So was that, did you keep showing after that?
Oh yeah, I showed it till I was 18.
Okay.
And then I graduated school, and that didn't stop my showing days. I had 4 children, and they all showed cattle. David Cross, Tommy Cross, Robin, and Beth Cross.
All right.
And they showed cattle. So I was in showing cattle 19 years after I retired myself. So they done a good job showing. They won several showmanship awards and had some good steers. We went all the way to Newport tonight and showed and done well. They done a good job showing.
What was your favorite thing about showing, even with your kids? What was your favorite thing about showing?
My favorite thing about showing, just getting the animal trained and get them to do what I wanted to do. And I think that was the good part about my steers at the show, because they were big and fat, and they just wanted to do whatever I wanted done. They weren't. But my children had trouble showing before we showing straight Angus then, and they're a little more temperamental. And my sons were in sports, so they didn't have all the time they needed to train them. We got through all the shows, and they were even such good handlers as some of the other people that helped show their animals.
All three of it. I lived in Dauphin County, Tennessee. I showed the first 4-H calves that we showed out of Dauphin County in 1956. Got 16th place out of whatever was in the show. And they didn't cut us up in classes in. They just put us, walked out of the barn and all of us together. And the judge picked out what he wanted to go back, and that's what we wound up with. I farmed all my life. I've got kids that's grown and their kids that's farmed, and we've showed cattle.
We're good to go.
My name is Charles Newland, and I've lived here at this house all my life. In fact, I was born here. And but my father raised shorthorn cattle, and the county 4-H agent wanted me to show a a steer in 1947. So I took one of the steers that we had here and fed it and trained it to lead, and then we took it to the 4-H Fat Calf Show, I believe that's what they called it, then in Bristol, on Bristol, Virginia. It's on the Virginia side of Bristol. And that's where the old farmers' livestock market was. And that's where the sale was, or the show was, and then the sale afterwards. And I'm not sure where I placed on that. I'm not sure if I placed anything. I'm not sure about that. That's been too long to remember. The only thing I remember that it brought more per pound than my father had said that any animal he had sold.
I'm Phil Elsie. I started showing in 1964 and showed every year there until my senior year in '72. We had several Elsies showing at that time. I think our most steers at one year were 8. My sisters had champions. My daughters have had champions. I never had a champion, but I sure have rubbed on a lot of them. Showing cattle is a rekindled passion. I think horses are also a passion for me, but showing cattle have been a rekindled passion, and it's something I really enjoy, and I think it's the best kids, the best families that I run across. They're all good, but it's just a good place to have your family. So, been a lot of changes in the industry. Used to be a lot more numbers. Most everybody showed a calf that they found in their neighbor's field or maybe out of their own cows. And maybe now we look a little harder to find one, and there's not as many, but it still takes a good one to win. So if you win, you've been very fortunate. If there's 25 or 125, it's still a pretty good challenge to win the Bristol Show. A show with great regional heritage and prestige, and a lot of winners have gone on. I'm a veterinarian. Dr. Dave Whitaker's got his PhD in animal science and horse management at MTSU, or some I think of, and many winners through the years. But a great reunion every time I go to Abington or Bristol. And all our cattle always went back into the community and were consumed by Hertz Foods or families, and big memories of Doc Gilmer selling them and having something good to say about every child. So it's a big fun memory for me.
My name is Phil Boer. I started showing in 1967, had some Angus steers. Was the first one in '71, I believe, to show the Charolais steers at Bristol. I guess that was the first year we had any exotics there. Showed for 2 years, '71 and '72. Of course, had both champion Charolais both years. Loved show cattle. Have always shown cattle all my life. It has been very rewarding. It is. I'm now the manager of the fairgrounds here at Gray, and have done a lot of things in my life. But the show experience was just, and the work ethic that is involved in showing cattle is outstanding. I mean, it just helps kids so much, and that's the reason we love to have the kids here at the Appalachian Fair. It's been a great success for us, and just hope it is for them.
Name?
Cynthia Kinzer. When I showed steers, I was Cynthia Fannin. That was my main name.
And you showed what years?
When I was in high school, so it would have been 65 through 70.
Is there anything that stuck out to you back then?
It was very different. I showed, when I was showing, my brother, who's a few years younger than I am, also came along with showing. But then the shows were divided up by breed instead of weight. So you had Shorthorn, Angus, and Hereford. I always showed Herefords. It's very different in the way the cattle look are very different than they were back then, and how we groomed them then is different than how we groom them now. But it's all changed, but probably for the good.
Now, did you? There was a carcass show then, wasn't there?
Yes, there was. It was that all the calves. That was one good thing. Then a lot of whoever bought the calves at the sale, Valleydale slaughtered them all, and there was a carcass show about a week later. So it was always interesting to see which calf actually had the best carcass, because usually it wasn't the calf that was the grand champion steer on foot. So that was interesting to see how your steer actually looked, after it was slaughtered, and in terms of what kind of meat was underneath all that skin and hair.
Was there anything else that stuck out to you?
Well, I mean, my father was very important on that. He sold a lot of livestock. He was a horse fan, and I think at some point, maybe after I quit showing, went to college, he might have sold the steers at the Bristol Show for a while, I think. I'm not sure about that. But I know one year, it was the best I'd ever done, had the grand champion Hereford at the Abingdon Show or Bristol Show. It switched back and forth between locations. And what was fun about it, or interesting, was after I had the champion Hereford, all of the Hereford representatives there, took over and started grooming my steer to get it ready for the grand champion round. I didn't have to do anything. I just watched them because they wanted the Hereford to win. I didn't, but it was fun how they sort of took over on behalf of the breed at that point.
Anything else?
No, it was just, like 4-H, it was just a good program, and, I recommend it to all young folks growing up. Some part of 4-H, whether it's showing cattle or doing something else, it's a terrific organization that gives young people a lot of opportunities. It certainly helped me along the way.
Hello, my name is Ken Harr, and I first started showing steers at Bristol in 1976. I was a 5th grader, and the first year that I took to Bristol didn't make the weight, didn't get to show, and I got to selling, but the next year I came back with another steer that actually won his class up there, and I don't think I had another class winner until my last year, which was 1983. And in '83 I had a steer that actually won grand champion, and sold him to Shoney's. Chubb Young bought the steer, and he actually sold for almost $4,000 a full year of college. So it was a very nice happening there with that steer. Then I guess my fondest memories, though, were probably much later when my son had two steers that won at Bristol. Michael had 2 steers that won up there, and those were really good memories there. A lot of hard work goes into the project of steers, and the best thing I probably ever learned from the steer project is that they used to have a party the night before the steer show, and a man was there, and he was dressed as a service employee out there handing out Cokes to people, and I had no idea, but I stopped and talked to him, and the next day he purchased my steer. He was actually the president of Coca-Cola Bottling Company, so told me that, just taught me the lesson that never underestimate anyone. Always treat people equally. It's a good lesson to learn.
My name's Blake Ramsey. Showed cattle from 4th grade to high school, and a little bit after I got out of high school. Was able to show up at the Bristol Steer and Heifer Show a few times. One there in the steer show, I can recall a couple times in the late 90s, early 2000s. A lot of good memories of showing up at Bristol Steer and Heifer Show.
I'm Colby Stout, and I started showing cattle in 2012, and I'm still showing. And this is my father.
Brian Stout. I started showing cattle at Bristol in 1981 and finished up my show season at Bristol in 1989. We've had many memorable events at Bristol with my son. My sister showed at Bristol also, in the 80s also, up into the early 90s. My son's had Grand Champion Commercial Heifer at Bristol, quite a few class winners.
County at the Bristol Steer Show, and I guess it was about 79
great experience back then. I guess the most I remembered about that was the trips over to Abington from here. Back then the roads weren't quite as good, and we loaded the calf in the back of the old Chevrolet pickup with cattle racks on it and headed that way. And me and my dad brought it over and did the way in, and then we used to spend the night over in the hotel over there, and everybody stayed in the same hotel, and it was just big fun. And then the next day we showed at the Abington stock barn at that time, and I do remember it was just a big gravel parking lot, and scared to death your calves would run off. And then when you get done, you got to meet all the other showmen out there, and it was really interesting getting to know the people outside the county at the time. I remember a lot of folks in our paths crossed several years there during the 4-H years and the FFA years, doing the meat judging and things like that. Most of the livestock judging team that I was on. So it was a really interesting friendship, and then we'd do the 4-H camps in Congress, run into the same people and get to know them. So it was really a fantastic time. After that, of course, I left the livestock industry and joined the Navy for 20 years. And when I moved back, we had small kids, and we asked them if they wanted to show, and lo and behold, they wanted to. So my son started at 9 years old. In fact, his first calf, he couldn't see over it, and we helped him get started. And by the end, my daughter showed a couple of years too, showed heifers. And by the end, my son wouldn't even let us touch his calf. That was his calf, and we weren't to touch it. So I think they had a good experience too. So it's pretty impactful for my life, and we've enjoyed it, and we still come out and support it today. So that's about all.
My name is Chuck Witt. I showed in the middle 70s, but I had more fun showing with my nieces in the middle to late 90s. And it was just a good family fun.
Is there any experiences specifically that stick out to you?
Well, I guess the wildest calf we had ended up winning the county.
My name is Blair Elsie Henderson, and I showed at the Bristol Show, I think from 1996 till I graduated in 2004, and showed steers every year. I would say that I vividly remember my first steer I had two that year. One that was pretty good and broke, and I was pretty sad to see him go, and then one that I probably would have given him a hand at the slaughterhouse. But I have really great memories of just that project and how getting that calf, that's green and taking it all the way to being finished. My dad showed at the Bristol Show, and then I followed behind my brother, and we showed together 4 years before he graduated, and then had cousins coming in right behind me, and I think we probably had a family member in the show probably for 25 years, I'd say, ongoing with an LZ there. So.
I guess you'll be second.
And I've been showing cattle at Bristol for almost a decade now. I'm a senior showman, and this is my last year. And over the years, I've learned a lot at Bristol. I've made a lot of friends, and I've learned a lot through Skillathon. And it's just really good experiences that I've made over the years. My favorite memory at Bristol is probably the Ag Olympics.
My name is Brandy Harrell, and I've been showing for 10 years, and my fondest memory at Bristol would be winning Grand Champion steer in 2014. It was overall just a good year for me, and I've learned a lot of things showing at Bristol. I've made a lot of friends, and I'm very glad for the experience that I've had.
Hey, my name is Adam Pendleton, and I started showing when I was in the 3rd grade. I showed all the way through my senior year. Mostly steers, showed heifers the last few years. Probably one of my most memorable things from the Abington show up there was just the people you met, and seeing different things that we don't see every day here in Lee County. Getting to experience a little larger scale show, and like I said, just the people you met, and made friends that you still got to this day.
My name is Robbie Burchett, and I'm 17 years old, and I've been showing at the Bristol Steer and Heifer Show since 2009. My most memorable moment would have to be last year whenever I had grand champion steer. It took many hours and hours in the barn late every night and feeding and washing and grooming to make sure that I enhanced my best ability to be able to show the grand champion steer. And I want to thank everybody at the Bristol Steer and Heifer Show for what they've done for me and how much it means to me. Thank you.